What's going on, everybody? Mike here, coming to you with another special holiday edition of Fly Casual. This week it is another Fly Casual retrospective. Originally aired as episode 118 of the Fly Casual podcast on December 20th, 2016. We go back to our review of Rogue One, probably our only unanimous favorite of the Star Wars era. We live the excitement, the fervor, the giddy schoolboy nerdiness of your hosts as we do a deep dive into the film. We hope you enjoy yet another very special episode of Fly Casual.
Let's get ready to wrinkle!
When it comes to the number of dudes we have with a microphone and headphones on, I think we've broken records now with this episode. This is the most ridiculous sausage party that has yet to... This is definitely the biggest sausage party that's ever been in this particular studio.
With the exception of two episodes, they've all been sausage parties.
That's very true. But this is the biggest sausage party.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I seem to remember Memorial Day with more people in the peanut gallery.
Everybody with mics.
It's like, yeah. Well, in this room, it's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Ain't no party like a sausage party.
I'm just saying, like, I'm thinking of that internet meme where the chick's sitting there and all the hot dogs are flying in her face. You see that one? This is going down a terrible route. Welcome to... Hey, Rogue One just came out today.
Ow! It did?
Whoa. Actually, it came out last night?
For some of us.
Last night as we record.
People that want to shoot shoot the gun, and fire, cap off. I got no language.
Why stop now?
Good job there, buddy.
I'm so blasted from the impact of this movie on my brain.
What are you implying?
Yeah, I'm implying exactly what I need to imply, but let's get to intros because there's a lot of conversation that's going to be going on. I'm your host, Mr. Corey T. Wilson. With me on the left, just lovingly scarf-wrapped, is Mr. Michael J. Archibald.
It's cold in Indiana.
Cold
man.
the basement, is it? In
No.
the basement studio?
I'm missing the white legs.
Yeah, he doesn't have shorts on, no
not
creamy
today,
thighs.
Buddy.
I know.
Aww.
I still might be rubbing my thighs at some point.
It's just weird because normally when Petrie's here on the podcast, your creamy thighs are out and on display.
Well, he's not sitting next to me right now, so
that's true.
I don't know, but the night is early.
Yeah. Speaking of which, across my Mr. Stephen Petrie joining us again.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Just peachy.
I saw a Star Wars movie for the first time today.
Me too.
I know. I'm pretty excited about it. Pretty excited.
First time in a long time, my friend.
Down at the end of the table, joining us again is Mr. Josh from Kokomo.
Mike, it's not that it's cold in here. It's that all of our nips are so freaking tweaked right now.
We got tweaked nips.
It's not cold. It's tweaking.
No.
True that, my friend.
And over here, I'm crisscrossing all over the table here. Over here is Mr. Toby Robles.
Hello. Spoiler alert, the dog dies at the end.
I know, dog.
No, dude.
Yep, right after the butler did it. I'm just saying.
Just saying.
Yes. And over there at Master Controls, Mr. Stephen J. Howie.
Hello, world.
Hey.
Yeah, somebody had to do it.
Yeah, Josh didn't do it.
I didn't believe that Garrick would actually do it, so I knew I had to.
Yep. Well, Garrick, who's that? Oh, that's the guy that's cross-pawned down with you, Mr. Garrick, not Jay Hardy.
Yeah, my nips aren't the only thing I'm tweaking.
I'll bet. This is wonderful. I'm so glad to be starting off this episode this way.
What am I saying, Corey?
Didn't
Tell me.
specifically say not to do this?
I believe...
Are we cutting back on the misogyny tonight?
Dang.
I'll take a massage.
I'm assuming Garrick's just shaving his legs. That's
Restart.
Thank you,
Restart.
Peter. I like that one.
Restart. Yeah, no, we're going in. We're doing it. We're hitting it hard.
Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk about some news, and that news is Rogue One.
What?
It's here, boys.
If you tuned into today's episode of Fly Casual, you should be warned that if you didn't look at the title of the episode, which if you might be auto-playing from the last episode, as we know you guys love to binge. We know. It's a thing.
Yeah, you do.
This is the Rogue One spoiler
This
cast.
would be a spoiler cast.
If you haven't seen Rogue One and you have sensitive ears, quick, hit the pause button, go see Rogue One, and then immediately unpause it in the parking lot and just sit there creepily with the engine running while people walk past and look at you and wonder what you're doing.
This is your one and only warning, people.
Rogue One, spoilers ahead and ahoy.
If you haven't seen Rogue One, the question is, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Amen, brother.
Hey, some people are in the hospital.
What?
That's the only thing I can come up with why you wouldn't have seen
That is a terrible excuse. I'm with Toby.
That's horrible, man.
That don't make no sense to me. That foreign.
It's bullshit.
Yeah, they should do special showings. They,
Yeah, he really should.
Yeah, you call up Make-A-Wish and they make it happen.
Actually, I think you just tweet Mark Hamill. I think that's
I think
how.
there's a movie about
JJ.
that, right?
If the
Where you
Bat,
take your,
if the
you take your
Bat
dying
Kid,
friend to,
if the
That's
Bat
a great
Kid can
movie.
be Batman
To see a
for
Star
a
Wars
day.
movie?
Seriously,
That is a
if
great
a dead
movie.
person can see a Star Wars movie,
Yeah,
the people in the hospital have no excuse.
exactly.
absolutely.
Does being present count as seeing? I mean, if there's anything that Jared Imwe taught me tonight, I'm just saying.
Wah, wah.
Hey, I'm going to start it
he's
off.
blind.
Obviously, we're gonna talk a lot about Rogue One, but let's dip our toes into it gently. I want to go around the table and get everybody's favorite quote from the movie. I'm going counterclockwise. I'm starting with Toby,
What?
and he's wincing.
Oh.
Technically, I would be counterclockwise.
Okay, you
Actually,
go first.
you're
Yeah.
almost kind of right. If I actually
You go
point to
first,
my
then.
right, that's where you're going to be. So, okay. Garrick, you go.
Yes! Suck it, Toby.
That's
Okay,
not
no,
a quote from the
that's
movie.
the quote
Now
from
it's
the
Toby's
movie.
turn.
That's a wonderful.
Oh,
I remember when they
that's not
said that.
a quote?
I literally was jumping with joy.
I thought Saw Gerrera said that at some point.
Oh,
He did.
What's your favorite quote,
In the
Garrick?
dream.
My favorite quote is from Chirrut Imwe.
I know.
It's where he says, "Are you kidding me?"
Yes. They put the sack over his head so he can't see where they're taking him.
I love that.
The joke is he's blind, so
Yeah.
he can't see
I love
anywhere.
that.
Right.
He goes, "Are you kidding me? I'm blind."
I love that.
It was very funny. It was great because that was very obviously a joke line. It may not have even been in the script, maybe it was, but at the same time, it fit. It wasn't C-3PO's head getting dragged through sand going, "What a drag." It wasn't that. It wasn't that. Okay, Petrie, what's your favorite one?
No, my
Oh, wait, no, Toby. I
Toby
skipped
is
Toby.
on board, man.
I gotta get this because
God,
I know
I'm
you guys
screwing
will
this
beat me
up.
to it. When Darth Vader says, "Careful, don't choke on it," and he turns around, you can see his hands literally choking the hell out of Krennic,
Yeah.
just like in his shadow and his silhouette. And he's like,
I believe it's don't
Don't.
choke on your aspirations.
"Is that what it is?"
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
There it is.
Yes.
Whilst he was choking, yes.
Yeah.
Wow, yes.
He could have even
the
said,
joke.
"Don't aspirate on your aspirations," and that would have worked too. but-
I wouldn't want to
And
see
then after
that,
he
though.
left the room, he licked his finger and made a mark in the air. Like,
Did not do that.
So that was my. It was. I'm sorry I
Burn.
didn't. But yeah, that was it. I
That was
love
a good
that.
one. That was a good
I
one.
love that.
Petrie.
Good pun from the Dark Lord.
I'm gonna go with you may fire when ready.
Yep.
That was all right.
Classic.
Yeah.
High and ready. Wow. Oh,
Yeah,
so
I
much to say
remember.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Howie, I can see you to the right of Josh, so you're next.
Yeah, so Garrick stole mine, of course.
Sucker!
But another one I had, I like most of K2's lines.
Oh, K2 had a
All
ton
of
of good
K2's
lines.
I think
All of
a
his
great
lines.
one that was kind of like,
You're
oh
going
no.
to take mine.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I have a bad.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He says, "I have a
Wonderful.
bad
He almost-
feeling about," and they're like, "Shh, quiet."
Quiet.
Yep. They said the line, but didn't say the
Yeah.
line.
Yes, that
Wonderful.
was perfect.
That was a excellent decision.
Because droids can't feel.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Hey, okay,
funny.
Josh.
I'm one with the Force is with me.
Yep.
I'm one with the Force is with me.
Yeah, it's
I'm one
my
with the
number
Force
three.
is with me.
Yep.
I'm one with
He's
the Force
praying
is
again.
with me.
Yeah, that's another
I'm
one.
one with the Force is.
You're only supposed to
I'm
have
not
one.
done yet.
You're only supposed to
No,
have one.
but, okay,
It's-
well you're missing the point.
It's one line with a bunch of commas.
but you're saying it a bunch of times.
Not like
I
the
understand.
jail cell, right?
It's for fact, man.
If you
It's for
say
a
it
fact.
long enough, you believe it.
Yeah, no, that's true.
the force
That's
comes
true.
into being that way.
Exactly.
yeah. Midichlorian.
Mine goes something like this.
Yeah.
No, then you have to have like, oh god, my leg, my fucking arm's choking me. Ah! I'm on the fucking ceiling. How is this even happening?
Where's the bathroom?
Here, take this.
It's a fucking pinata party of death. Get me out of here.
Open the door.
Open up, take this.
I'm trying. Take your hand off the lock. Don't let go of the handle.
I'm not opening this.
I don't
Are
have
you
the
nuts?
handle. Open the lock. Oh wait, I'm quoting Goonies. I got confused.
Oh.
Okay,
wrong movie.
here's my favorite line. You guys ready? I believe mine went a little something like this. There's a fresh one if you mouth off again.
Nice.
That's another
That was
K2
pretty
line.
good.
That
That
was
was
just
good.
smacking.
I forgot about that
Yes.
one. That's beautiful.
Smacking Diego Luna, and there's a fresh one if you mouth off again. That one got a big laugh.
That was great.
the
That
theater
was
today.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, guys, let's get into it. It's Rogue One. We don't have bullets, we don't have talking points, but let's talk about Rogue 1. What?
Woo!
Okay. All right. We're going to go around opposite direction. Ready?
Okay.
Technically, I'm the first in the opposite direction, too.
No, you're the last now. You're the last now.
Put me on the spot. Here we go.
Mike, where do you put it in the hierarchy of Star Wars movies?
Oh, my gosh, dude.
Wow. We're throwing out the hard questions early because I know we're
after one viewing
about the details.
First off, I said this coming out of the theater, and some people are going to smack me down for saying this. I like it better than Force Awakens, guys. It's higher than Force Awakens for me. Guys, this might be number 2 on my list.
Holy cow!
He stole my line.
Oh man, you need to see it, but you got to watch it a few more times before you commit to something like that.
I know. That's what I said. When I came out of the theater, I said I every ounce of my being wants to give this a 5, but I don't do that.
Yeah.
I never give a movie a 5
like 5
until
stars.
Right, because to me a 5 star is an all-time classic.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm like, but I love it so much, I'm like 4.5.
4.5.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll say
all in.
I'll say number 2, maybe number 3.
Maybe number 3
on my all-time list.
Oh wow.
After Phantom Menace, right?
Yeah, that's the one. Yep. Phantom Menace is Mike's second favorite Star Wars movie.
He loves that movie.
Josh, where does it fall for you?
I mean, I'm kind of with Mike. It's hard because
of course it is. You're in the honeymoon phase.
You want the original trilogy to kind of stand on its own, but if I'm actually going to break it down into individual movies, and what this one, I'm still in the honeymoon phase,
right?
But what this one represents to me in terms of the heroicism, the amount of emotion that I felt while watching this movie,
ton of emotion in this movie.
Now,
this wasn't just member berries.
No,
there were lots there.
There was, but that wasn't the best part.
So I'm fighting nostalgia here. This one doesn't have 20 years of nostalgia for me.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking maybe in the 3 to 4 range.
Yeah.
And I my gut is to put it in the 2 and 3.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to hold back a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
I know whenever we did the review for The Force Awakens, we were just oozing and gushing, and afterwards we kind of settled down a bit. So I know
after we had it at home and we could watch it a few times.
Yeah, I know that when I get the wife home, we're gonna start fighting a little bit, and the kids are gonna come along, and inevitably we're gonna kind of get talking about finances and just crap's gonna hit the fan a little bit.
Yeah.
And I have my critiques.
Yeah.
But this
of
movie,
your wife, right?
This movie did things that no Star Wars movie has ever done, and for that, it deserves a high spot in the echelon of Star Wars movies.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Howie, where do you put it?
Well, I typically have a different rating system because I rate.
Surprise!
I rate episode 6 highest for me. I think this has probably one of the best stories of any of the Star Wars movies, but is mediocre score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm having a real tough time figuring out where I would want to put it.
Better or worse than Force Awakens score?
Definitely better than Force Awakens. That's an easy one for me.
Yeah.
How about Force Awakens the movie?
Now, what?
How does it compare to the movie Force Awakens?
Would you rank
overall?
this higher or lower than Force Awakens?
Higher than Force Awakens. I thought that's what you asked me before.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
he was asking Force Awakens score. You said score, right?
Yeah, the score.
Yeah. This is better than the Force Awakens score.
Both in both regards. Okay, good.
Yeah, and Force Awakens score is probably
your least
one
favorite.
of the last ones on the list. Now I know you guys are going to be pissed off.
I'm already angry just now.
But this could be higher than Empire for me.
Whoa! Wow.
But the only thing that Empire really has, which is huge, is it's got a much better score.
Empire's got like the greatest score of all time.
But I think right now I need more time to digest this.
Of course.
But I think the story is better.
All of this is so you can look back later and go, "What the hell was I thinking?" That's the whole point of pigeonholing all this.
True.
Petrie,
but we're in the honeymoon phase. So
Yep. Petrie.
Yeah.
Yeah. You.
Oh, me. Oh, go.
Where's the fall?
Yeah. 2.
Number 2.
Empire than this.
Holy nuts! He just threw it down that
right
easy.
there, dude.
Yep.
Right there.
Right
I'm
there.
there.
He's not waffling. He's sticking to it.
No.
It's so hard to compare because this
is.
This is a standalone story. Now,
It is.
obviously, it's like basically leading directly into episode 4.
Yeah.
So it's a part of that thing. But all these other movies, I can't separate them from the others, and so this one might be the strongest standalone. If I were just to say, here's one movie to watch that encapsulates the world of Star Wars, what movie would that be? and this movie might be there because of the messages that it brings.
This movie, in a lot of ways, was more Star Wars by throwing out the whole Jedi Skywalker story. You actually got almost a better taste of the Star Wars galaxy by not having that stuff overshadowing everything.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
Well, that and there was underlying politics, and I love the politics in Star Wars. I love it, and it's there.
Yes, that's something that I felt like The Force Awakens did, like cheesy pie lollipop politics.
Yeah.
Right.
Just,
but the politics in this were like a huge. I mean, it was the undercurrent of everything.
Right.
Was the political situation
on both sides?
Yeah.
I mean, for the Empire.
Well, even the infighting almost on the rebellion side, man.
Right.
Especially the infighting on the rebellion. First off, you've got good and bad guys on the Imperial side, and then you've got good and kind of bad-ish guys on the rebel. You've got buttholes on the rebel side, the hardliners. You've got the people who are like, we need to do everything we can. You got the people going, we need to give up because this crap is not winnable.
Don't forget Saw Gerrera, man.
Yeah, and
the extremist.
the extremist.
Oh, yeah.
And Cassian taking out that dude at the very beginning.
That was crazy.
Yeah, just putting a blaster ball again, just whispering in his ears like, shh, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Shh, baby, sleep, baby, sleep. And then, Oh man. Okay, Toby, where do you put it?
I would have to say at number 3. I'm
Number
not
3.
gonna lie. Going back on what Josh said, there was a moment where I literally felt like a kid. And I think I mouthed out loud like this is just fucking awesome. Like I couldn't even hold it back. And there was a moment like if I could pause the movie like 14 times, I would screenshot every single one of them. Put them on.
Yes.
There was a shot with the AT-AT Walker coming out of the mist.
Oh my God.
And I literally just wanted to like cry. Like I felt like that kid for the first time when you see those when he's looking in the binoculars in Empire Strikes Back and you see that foot.
Yeah.
And then he scrolls up and you see the head.
Yeah.
I haven't felt like that in 30 years. And I'm sitting here watching it and I just literally like my mouth was agape.
And all the sound effects and everything.
Yes. And it was like boom. And you just knew it, but you looked and you see it come out of the
some
mist.
Of those metallic groans that we like. That Star Wars used to clank and groan and grind, and it hasn't in so long. And they brought back so much of that in this movie.
So number 3 for me, and might even push it up to number 2, man.
Oh.
There's no darker. It just felt. It felt more like a Star Wars. It felt like the original New Hope, which is to me my episode 1. I'm sorry, I fucking prequels need to be burned alive, but prequels need to be burned alive like Anakin Skywalker did.
3, right?
This is my. 3. I had said it tonight. This was my episode 3.
Attack of the Clones is not your number 2. Is that what you're saying?
The thing is with this, we have not seen a Vader like this in any of the movies.
Oh my God! Are we going there already?
No.
So I'm passing the conch shell,
Garrick,
please.
where do you put it?
Oh man, it's kind of hard to compare
your mom.
to the original. Well, obviously, none of the prequels make my top 5 at all.
Yeah,
even though there's only been 4. What? But anyway, it's really
there's
hard
5
to compare
movies
it to
now that aren't the prequels.
Yeah, it's hard to compare it because it seems like it's a whole different genre of Star Wars. Like,
of course.
So I don't know if I had to rate it against the other ones, I'd probably put it at 3 as well, behind Empire and New Hope. Because New Hope just has that nostalgic feel. Like that was the first movie I saw, and it's just like that's what got me hooked. Not to say it's a better film by any stretch of the imagination,
right?
But it's better for me, I think.
Yeah.
And of course, Empire. It's hard to beat that.
Yeah.
But I think I'll have to see it a few more times because there were some things in there that did bother me. Like some of the CGI they did kind of was a little jarring and had the uncanny valley going on. But I put it 3, but I need to see it a few more times. It may move up or down in the rankings depending on once I get out of this honeymoon stage, like Josh was talking about.
Yeah,
and I definitely think the characters were the strongest, probably, of any of the movies, really, because man, all of them were just so great.
Yeah.
Even Saul Guerrero, who's not really in that much of the film, when he does what he does, says, "Get out of here! I'm on robo feed. I can't run."
Yeah,
I'm in my sleep apnea suit. I can't go anywhere. If I'm going to unplug, I'll fall over and die. And like she takes off, and he doesn't give the whole annoying speech from the previews. He just says a small part of it, and you're like, oh, he's
Yeah.
He just did his whole purpose, and he's checking out. It was moving.
That's one thing they did. Like you mentioned the previews, none of that was in the movie.
No. Well, and I think that goes to show how much they actually changed.
Yeah.
In that
no TIE fighter up on the catwalk.
No.
No
running on the beach with the plans.
What will you do when they come for you?
No speeches.
What will you do?
Yeah.
No Krennic walking through the water up to the beach.
Yeah. I mean, we saw it from a distance, but we didn't see it up close like we had in the trailers.
No, we need Rick Moranis to pop up, just go, fooled you.
Exactly.
I think Garrick kind of touches on something, though. We all have such a nostalgia connection to episode 4.
Yeah.
That might be one of the reasons why we love this movie so much, because
I agree.
I have all that nostalgia. I feel like I can watch these back to back. They're entirely different movies, but the storylines are so connected that nostalgia is there from the original trilogy.
Yeah.
That wasn't there in episode 7.
If anything, this movie enhances episode 4.
Absolutely. And before we get
so many bows.
Before we get into that, I'll get mine out of the way.
So
I'm going to go more.
bows.
I'm going to go a little more conservative because I fear the honeymoon phase. There were a handful of things that stood out about this movie that I didn't care for, even though I'm fine that they did it. I feel like it was the right decision. I just didn't think the technology was there to make some of those decisions.
Yeah.
And we talked about that beforehand when we heard rumors about, CG characters. We were like, and they were amazing, but they weren't great for me. So there were a few things like that. I'm going to put it at 4. I'm going to put it right in the middle of the pack, but I'm putting it above Force Awakens.
Whoa,
So,
nice.
I can say that, but the original trilogy for me, and I don't want to sound like a homer, but the original trilogy for me, Empire is my favorite movie of all time. That's ever, any movie ever. But I really, really like Jedi. Always have. It's the one that was on TV all the time when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, it's the only one I recorded off TV.
Exactly. But then A New Hope, like the nostalgia factor of New Hope, is so high for me. But structurally, I felt like this movie, although kind of similar to A New Hope in the fact that it's got a slower first half and a much faster second half, I feel like New Hope drags more than this movie did. So it's a battle for whether or not it's 3 or 4, or for me, whether or not it's better or worse than New Hope, which ultimately it doesn't matter because I can just think of them as one long movie if I really, really want to. Because it literally goes right into it. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how this movie plays right into A New Hope. I mean, we've known all along that this was going to be about stealing Death Star plans, and obviously that's where New Hope kicks off, Leia on the run, right? But this movie very literally went minutes into New Hope, and I was saying, we were talking before, this changes the entire dynamic of the conversation between Vader and Leia.
Oh, yes.
Aboard the Tantive Lord.
Right.
If this is a consular ship, where is its ambassador? Is now just like Vader pointing her going,
You're
it's
lying.
bullcrap. It's bullcrap. I just saw you. That's bullcrap. You're a lying liar who lies. Instead of like, I'm doing an investigation and I'm going to get the bottom of it and I'm a hardliner. No, now it's just Leia bold-faced lying to a guy that she knows she's lying.
Right.
And that I like that more. I like that better now.
Yes.
So, I mean, what do you, Josh, you were just talking about it. Like the way this kind of like weaves in to Ep4, like how does it change your perceptions now of Ep4? Obviously there's that one conversation there, but now like knowing everybody who died and which was everybody just about who
I mean, for me, it brought a whole new level of meaning.
Yeah.
To throw out the word gravitas. I'm getting blank stares.
Yeah. Jane Austen got it.
Exactly.
Go back to Wuthering Heights.
I mean, basically, my feeling is I just witnessed more heroism in this movie than I even saw from Luke or from Now Leia is to me an extremely heroic figure because of who dies. Everyone that she loves, her entire world is taken. But in this movie, to see these people who are not people who have lightsabers flailing around,
right?
People who
just the one.
People who are legitimately going into situations knowing that they're probably going to die.
Yeah.
Just normal, average folk. Now that I have that connection piece, I feel connected to the rebellion, whereas I'd never felt connected to it before.
Yeah.
I used to feel that, okay, here's these cool lightsaber people, and they're working for the rebellion. That's cool.
Yeah.
I feel a personal connection now as a normal Joe as I,
Yeah.
where I could see myself in that battle. I can envision the reasons why I would have joined that battle, and I feel more connected to the fight in a way that I haven't before.
Especially seeing them just debate over what to even do once they hear about what the Death Star is and can do.
Oh, yeah.
All of them standing around. Not just a small group of the people in charge, but literally everyone crammed into a room. People yelling in the background, and and it was straight up British Parliament up in there. And
I mean, they're a fledgling group at this point.
Yeah, it's the make or break moment for the rebellion. It wasn't like they were just growing and growing like we've seen in Rebels, right? In the show, growing and growing and growing all the way up to when this victory that happens in the opening text crawl of A New Hope. It was actually they grew and grew, and they got to this moment where a bunch of people just wanted to give up.
Right.
They were done. They were like, no, we can't fight this. We're out. And they actually voted more or less to
opt out.
Basically turn themselves in.
Right. That's what we were talking about with the politics of it, just the various factions and just seeing that all play out was great.
Yeah,
man.
it's great.
It was frustrating because you had a few people who were like, we know we have to do this, and if we don't do this, generations are going to pay for the decision we're making. But they weren't shoving their agenda down the throats of everybody else who was scared and were like, there's no way we can fight. We have to give up. And then you've got this splinter group of people who are like, all right, they all gave up, so let's just go do it ourselves. And then a bunch more people show up and like, yeah, we hear you're going to do it yourselves, and we're going to do it too. And then and then the people who are in charge hear about it later, and they're like,
that Mon Mothma moment
that little
know that, hey, these guys went off and are kind of doing this thing, and she has that little smirk on her face.
Yeah, well, at first she's like almost like surprised, angry look, but as they explain it, she just gets that little smirk.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I know for me, talking about going from Rogue One into Episode 4 and what kind of changes or what does it do, I think it brings so much more depth and I can't think of the words I want to say, but just the fact that Galen Erso basically sacrificed his whole life to be able to put in a back door to the Death Star.
Yeah, exactly.
And that brings so much more meaning to like, oh, we just happened to find this.
Well, we studied the plans, and guess what? There's like this hole right here, which has been a lot of the people have lodged a complaint against Step 4 in the past. Has been, the giant space station with a major. I think Patton Oswalt's got like a half hour on this subject.
Totally retconned, man.
And it's totally retconned. Guess what? That was designed into it to be a flaw, and they would never have found it unless it was sent out this way, where Galen Erso said, I'm going to send this message out to my daughter because I've been forced to do this, and I designed this thing to fail, and here's how to make it fail. And that's why they were able to identify
it. Brings so much. It's much more of a powerful story.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, indeed. Very, very happy about that. So let's talk about the very end of the movie real quick, and then we're going to go back and talk about a lot of stuff. But we're talking about how it feeds into Episode 4. Obviously,
Carrie Fisher did awesome.
Carrie Fisher,
she did great.
She's never looked better.
Not since Episode
disagree.
4 anyway.
Recently,
objectively disagree.
Recently,
okay, fair enough. We saw Princess Leia at the end of the movie. How do we feel about how that played out? Obviously, she was full CG.
I think we've kind of prior to the cast talked a little bit about the CG, and I'm sure we'll get more into that with Tarkin and everything. But
absolutely.
I think the general feeling coming out of it was, you know what, the CG's still kind of stiff.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what, for me, it didn't affect me. It didn't affect my enjoyment of the film at all. Me personally, I don't know how you guys feel. You can chime in or whatever. But
the word Garrick used works for me, which is I find it jarring. It shakes me loose a little bit. Like, it takes me out of the moment because I'm suddenly just analyzing the CG.
That's exactly what I was doing.
But you know what? But I think if you give it time, you're going to get... I don't know. I like I said, for me, the
CG doesn't get
else,
better over time.
No, it sure doesn't. He's got a point.
Well, I mean, but at
watch Lord of the Rings.
But you look at Episode 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
They're not that great when it comes to special effects.
Special effects.
There's things in there, especially in Episode 4, that take you out of it. Because they're so bad.
Even in the special edition, they left some stuff in that shouldn't have been left in.
Yeah, for me, bad practical effects are easier to swallow and less jarring than CG that's not quite there.
I agree.
Because, well, here's the thing. bad practical effects were usually something that they tried to mask a little bit. They tried not to rub your nose in it. CG, ever since the prequel trilogy came out, and this isn't just Star Wars, this is ever since prequel trilogy, everybody's like, look at the thing we can do with CG. You know,
look at the Hobbit series. The Hobbit
it's the dude in
series
special edition Jedi, you know, going up to the camera and screaming with his spit dripping, you know, during the Jabba dance number.
But, I think we're just kind of going into this conversation. I think it's more jarring because one, it's more jarring to have Tarkin not look at the camera the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
Or to be very distant to not have to worry about it. And the thing is, Tarkin had to be in this movie.
He had to be in the film, but did he have to be in as much?
He was in it quite a bit.
Let me say
he did.
Let me say this. When we first were introduced to Tarkin, we see him from behind.
Yeah.
And he's kind of in shadow.
You see the reflection in the window.
Yeah, you see the reflection in the window, and then okay, we're gonna see him. He's gonna turn around. The thing of it is, when he turned around, he's still kind of in shadow and still kind of dark.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but
I thought it was gonna be kind of in the distance a little bit, but then no, he came right out, and he's like in your face kind of thing. So.
I think that's where they may have misstepped a little bit.
Too much.
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. They put it way too much on display. Like Tarkin's face filled the entire screen like no less than 6 times in this movie, and it was always sinister stare. Directly, I'm like, Peter Cushing looked all over and was so casual in the way he interacted with people in Episode 4. Like, well, intimidating Leia. Well, that's fine. Say whatever you say, but I'm me and you're you, and I don't care. Go blow
blowing
up
your planet.
Yeah, like he was so casual, but in this movie he was glaring sinister.
And here's what I didn't understand. They had a lookalike for Mon Mothma, right?
Yeah.
Why not have a lookalike for Tarkin? I mean,
okay, that's
surely.
easy.
Okay, because there was an actor that played Tarkin in Ep 3. So, what's your preference? Do you want the guy that with heavy makeup, or do you want the CGI?
That guy was covered in silicone, and the thing about Peter Cushing is that he was skeletal. So the more you add to a person, the less they're going to look like him.
You don't have to add makeup. I'm sure there's lookalikes out there.
They happen to have a lady who looks a hell of a lot like Mon Mothma. The other thing is you don't see Mon Mothma until Jedi, and this is prequel, and then Ep 4, so that it can be. She can look a little different because she's a few years younger, but she just happens to look a lot like her. Nobody looks like Peter Cushing. He was a very distinct person, and he was picked for his distinct
answer
features.
My question. Do you want makeup heavy Tarkin, or do you want CGI Tarkin? Those are your choices.
I'll take CG Tarkin with far more reserve. CG Tarkin with far more reserve than what they showed.
I don't know what you guys are complaining about. The back of
We're complaining about CG Tarkin and not having that reserve.
The back of his slightly balding head was spot on.
All the spots were spot on.
So more reserve with Tarkin, then that applies to Leia too, right?
I mean,
absolutely.
Did we really need to see her face full on?
No, and we didn't have to see her the
big
awkward smile at the end.
I think the smile, all of us would complain that was kind of our biggest, because in that moment the line was perfect. Actually,
yeah. What's on that disc anyway?
Right. Hope.
She could have said porn, which is usually the answer to what's on that
what's
disc.
on my disc.
Well, don't count it out. There still might be a little.
Yeah,
bit.
there might be.
Well, she's implying that with Hope.
Galen, we had
those discs can hold a lot.
He had a new folder 1, new folder 2, new folder 3. Anyway. But
do not open.
No, she said Hope, but if she said it completely straight faced, she could have said it ironclad face.
Or she even could have been side profile in shadow a little bit.
They should have showed the disc. Because this is a whole Lord of the Rings thing, where the ring is a small, tiny object that is the fate of the entire world. Or in this case, the galaxy. They should have zoomed in on the disc, all beaten up and stuff, because that, and maybe just have her say Hope as you're zooming into the disc, because that was the linchpin that kind of was going to turn the balance of the galaxy.
Well, that was the point of the
movie,
movie,
undo the
right?
Empire.
Yeah, I would have been fine with that. I would have been better if they did the same thing, but she just hadn't smiled. I thought the smile was a little too cheesy pie.
So Garrick's,
considering they were still running from, an Imperial Star Destroyer.
It's like all these lives spent for this little tiny object.
Alternate Garrick ending.
Yeah.
They ask what is it or whatever, and you get the pan in on the disc, and you hear Leia, she's Hope.
And then she turns it over, and in Sharpie it says Hope on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, literally in Arabesh.
Hope Volume 1.
And Google it.
Right.
The only problem I had was why they don't CGI the new Leia in the new episodes, because that fucking that dead plank of a ventriloquist dummy. That's Leia phoning it in.
I respect where you're at. I respect your honesty. but man, you're playing with gas and fire when it
I'm
comes
just
to talking
saying,
about how like old beat up
phoning
spent Carrie
it
Fisher.
in, phoning it in.
I don't think she's phoning it in.
Actress.
I think that's trying as hard as she can.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's just all the nerves in
She's
her
like
face are dead.
she's like the mom from Requiem for a Dream, just like literally like just doping it
trying to be on a
up
game
for
show
her
or
big
something?
performance.
Big eyebrow guy.
Man, that's my only CGI problem is that she's not in the Force Awakens and not in the new Episode 8 or 9.
Oh, that's rough.
I'm just saying.
Okay, stop it. Stop
Okay,
it.
I'm backing off.
I'm telling Garrick to stop doing the Requiem for a Dream soundtrack over there.
I get you.
I'm gonna get like crazy flashbacks. And my pupils are gonna start dilating, and it's gonna be rough. Honestly, that's the side. I said if she turned the side, you saw the side of her, and the veil was still kind of half over her face. That'd have been cool. But I think they were just worried that normies, the straights, normal people, would
Wouldn't
actually
understand,
somehow not get that it's Leia. So
I don't know how you
wanted
wouldn't with the iconic hair.
There are people walking into this movie today who don't realize that it's not
Yeah.
F8.
I agree.
Like Howie
Right.
said, just show
So-
her, she takes off her hood and it shows the back of her hair. I mean,
That could have
everybody
worked
knows who
too.
that is.
That also would have been a little on the nose. Look, Cinnabons, that's a hard question to answer. What the right way to do that is, the CG is not there. Yeah, she smiled, but the rest of her face looked dead when she smiled. And it's just kind of like same thing with Sinister Tarkin the whole time. Like, where's casual? I don't give a fudge Tarkin. Where was that? Like, it was barely there. It was sinister, angry Tarkin
Now,
the whole time.
I have a question that I want to ask you guys about Tarkin,
ooh.
because I think this kind of changes my view on Tarkin a little bit.
Okay.
Because he's even more of a prick now. Because he had nothing to do with building the Death Star, but
No,
he
he's
took
gonna-
full credit.
You're
Yeah,
right.
man.
You're right.
That was pretty.
He just literally spit on the floor and went, "See this? It's mine now. I keep
Yeah.
it. This is mine
And
now."
he literally dies like 2 days later or something.
Yeah.
yeah, I know, that's true. Karma's a bitch.
Dude, he
Well,
needed him. That's what he did.
I don't know that that's accurate, though. I mean, there was some discussion of his
He calls the
involvement
Death Star
in-
Lucille.
Not
Yeah.
no, that was this point.
She's
he
a beautiful
masterminded
woman.
it,
In terms
though.
of the movie,
He was in Krennic's head.
I mean,
Yeah.
he was
Oh, no, it was a
there
little
at the
earlier.
end of Ep 3, right, when they're starting to build the damn thing. So
Let's talk about
Yeah.
Krennic, can we? Where does Krennic fall in the pantheon of Star Wars villains? I'm gonna go first rather than make you guys have to sit through me at the end. I really like Krennic because
Yep.
he was not. He was on the verge of being a mastermind, but everybody kept snatching it away from him.
Right.
Yep.
Circumstances, opponents,
Oh, man.
everybody
Politics,
right.
just kept barely
That-
stealing it away from him. He was just trying. He was the tragic villain.
That
I'm glad
brings
to
up
hear
a
you say
good
this
point.
because the book was all
Yes.
about that. The Rogue One or the Catalyst.
And I'm so glad
And I'm
we
glad it
spent.
came through.
I'm so glad we spent 3.5 hours on our last episode
Garrick.
letting Garrick read the book to us word for word.
That was all good material.
It was
Right?
like a
Right, guys?
like a
Because
filibuster.
I was fully prepped to appreciate that.
Don't make me
that the
filibuster
whole
this
time that
podcast.
this guy was just. I mean, he freaking was in charge of the Death Star, but like everything just keeps getting ruined. And he's just trying so desperately to
that-
hold it together.
That actually makes me happy that a person like you who hasn't read the book can still relate to that character. Because I was
Yes!
afraid going in, because I've read this book. I have no idea what normies are going to think. I have all the backstory, and I loved it. I think the book did justice to these
I
And I
think
characters.
think
I
the
think for
movie
a
did
lot
a
of
great
people-
job portraying
I
that.
think for a lot of people are going to have to see the movie a few times before they really start to appreciate that because there are so many protagonists. It's moving so quickly. Even the slowest parts of the movie, the camera, as I've complained about already to you guys off air, the camera is up in people's armpits and up in their business the whole time, which I hate that handheld camera up in the business
I love
thing.
it.
Yeah.
I hate it. And it's going on so much that it's hard to keep track of even what's happening a lot. And so to
But this
actually
was
stop
not
and
a
appreciate,
huge
look
offender.
at all the crap that guy went through. It's I think long term, Krennic's going to be held in some pretty good regard.
Good.
Honestly,
I'm
but I think
glad.
it's going to take a while. I think it's going to take a while for
I
people
don't
to really
see. I
appreciate him.
disagree. I think it's pretty straightforward. I think it's pretty clear who the antagonist is in that movie and his struggle. I mean, I think they portrayed it pretty well.
Well, it's clear that he's the antagonist of the movie, but in reality, the antagonist of this movie is the same antagonist of Episode 4. It's Vader, it's Tarkin, and even by proxy, the Emperor. Those guys they're taking advantage even of him.
Yeah.
They're stepping on him and his lifelong ambitions that he has ruined other people's lives to make this happen, and they're now ruining his life to just use
get
him
it. I
and throw him
agree.
away.
I just think I just don't think people are confused that he's the main baddie.
Oh no, of course not.
And it's great that he has the depth that because the baddies. Well, let's look at New Hope. I mean, the baddies in New Hope didn't really have much depth. We didn't know much about Vader, and we didn't know much about Tarkin, just other than one gets shot off into space at the end of the movie, and the other one blows up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all we know. So to come this far, and have a bad guy now that has those problems and that push and pull in different directions is great. It's great to see.
One of my favorite lines of Krennic's, I don't know if it would be my favorite going forward, but one that sticks out right now is when they're starting the rebels. Rogue One is starting their attack on Scarif.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he turns around and looks at everybody almost in
everybody's standing there.
Yeah.
Are you guys seeing?
They're looking out of a giant window, explosions going on all over the horizon, and he's like, "Get off your butts and move!"
Yeah.
So
there were two scenes that kind of defined Krennic for me.
Right.
And first I'll say I didn't need the flashback scene.
What are you calling the flashbacks? Like her dream sequences
at the very beginning of the movie?
No, the scene where
dream sequences
where we see her as a little girl again.
Yeah, she's nodding off and she's dreaming.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like you could make that connection and cover that in the scene whenever he actually, was killing off the engineers and interacting with
Galen. Yeah.
So that scene was defining for him.
Yeah.
And
specifically
you saw
the flashback you're talking about is the one where briefly you see Galen and Jin and the mother, what's her name?
Lyra.
And you see them when they actually work when Galen was working for the Empire before the movie even started.
Right.
So it's before he ran off and hid.
Right.
And you see that
they're
Krennic's
drinking cocktails.
Yeah,
and all
Krennic's
that,
in their apartment and they're all friends and hanging out, and it's very brief.
That was in the book.
So you're saying that you could have done without that completely.
I feel like it was there for the normies. I mean, we knew what was going on there, and I feel like in the interactions he had with Galen, both at the beginning of the movie and in that scene, they could drive that home. But really, my favorite scene with Krennic is after he's been choked.
Yeah.
And after Lord Vader says, don't choke on your own aspirations.
Yeah.
I felt like, I thought we were just going to go away and be like, oh, look how badass Vader was. That was so kick-ass.
Yeah.
But then they zoom in on his face, and rather than him going, you see him all of a sudden regain all of his composure and subtly smile. And that told you everything that you needed to know about him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, predominantly in the movie, he comes across kind of as a guy who's a little bit wussy and just reaching for power.
Yeah.
But in that moment, you realized how much strength and energy and power that his ambition gave him.
Yeah.
But what I liked about him, though, is that he just wasn't quite as ruthless as Tarkin or Vader or the Emperor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or quite
because
as
they were a
connected.
step ahead
He
of
was
him.
trying to be ruthless. That's what, hence him killing off all the scientists and all that stuff right there in that scene.
Yeah.
But he just couldn't grab
I think a little bit, it's actually more, he's not quite connected enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Where Tarkin and Vader are obviously very connected.
It's their game. They own
Yeah, you know
the
what?
game.
That's a good point because Vader and Tarkin have direct access to the Emperor. If you notice, there's more than one scene, I think, where Krennic is actually saying, hey, tell the Emperor what I'm doing, okay?
Yes.
Hey, let him
Put
know.
a good word in for me, will
Yeah.
you?
Hey,
That's his
right.
aspiration, is to make it up
to
there,
to be with Vader and
He
Tarkin.
wants to be
Speaking-
the commander of the Death Star. That's his ultimate goal.
Speaking of aspirations, one of the things you always need to worry about when you have a new child around is that they might aspirate on themselves when you give
Gross.
when you give them milk, right? Did you guys notice the blue milk sitting very strongly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that parlays into something that I want to share with you guys. As you know, Christmas is right around the corner, as Garrick likes to
Always.
tell us, for 8 to 9 to 12 months out of the year.
Always.
Yeah. And we do have, believe it or not, even though this is a special episode, we do have one last 2016 submission from the Fly Casual Glee Club.
What?
Really?
Yep, we do have it, even here during the
Slave
Rogue One
driver.
cast.
I can't
way.
believe you made those guys work this past
Are
week.
you kidding me? Ever since at Sancho Panda VTW on the
you
Twitter
almost
has
got
been
it.
involved, they've taken on a new life entirely. So
you can call him the Krennic of the Fly Casual.
you really could. You really could.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Krennic
In a lot of ways.
Panda.
So having said that, there's someone else who probably drank blue milk probably gets a lot less attention. We definitely don't talk about this character very often.
Luke?
In the podcast here. But you know who doesn't get a lot of love? Klieg Lars.
Yeah, man.
Poor Klieg.
Klieg Lars does not get a lot of love. And so what they put together.
Klieg is Owen's dad.
Yeah. So the Glee Club, Sancho and the Glee Club,
Ep 2, buddy.
Put together.
That's why you don't know.
Yeah, Sancho and the Glee Club put together a song. What if Klieg were able to write one last love letter to Shmi,
to his hover chair?
So without further ado, here we go. I present to you Blue Milk Christmas.
Blue milk Christmas without you. My evaporator's dried up thinking about you. Those raiders abducted you, my shroom picking Shmi. I tried to mount a rescue, but they got a leg up on me. Oh,
Because he lost a leg.
I get it.
Yeah. That's the joke.
It's a funny joke.
These are the jokes.
From farming. And that son of yours, his anger sure is alarming.
Yeah, it would be.
He's angry.
He brought your body back tied and wrapped in sackcloth of white.
Aw.
So I'll have a blue milk Christmas. Buying you from that weird kind of bug fellow was the second best thing I ever did. I mean, it sucks that you're dead and all, but at least I got this sweet Professor X chair in the end, and well, that's kind of nice. Oh, your Annie sure can fight. Let's hope he stays in the light, but without you I'll have a blue milk Christmas.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That ties off the 2016 submissions from the Fly Casual Glee Club. And, of course, a special thanks to Sancho Panda of ETW on Twitter. And, Garrick, do you know the name of his podcast? Or can you say it? Can you say it right now?
No.
Wonder Brother twins thing stuff, dude.
Oh,
God.
I saw a preview for that tonight.
Yeah.
It's the Fantastic Justice Squad Super Wonder Brother Friend Show.
There it is. There it is. So make sure you check that out. He's done a bang up job writing and performing much of that song. So we're really thrilled. Thanks again to him. Check out his podcast. But in the meantime, I think it's time, gentlemen, for a Porkins Bite of the Week.
Whoa.
We get a Porkins too?
What the heck, dude?
Wow.
Porkins.
I thought we gave him the time off.
I could go search some Porkins about now.
I could use some time off, but y'all don't have no PTO.
It's the end of the year, Ek. What do you expect?
So anyhow, you know how the code name for Return of the Jedi was Blue Harvest?
It was?
Y'all remember what the episode 2 one was that I told you about?
Oh, remind me, my friend.
I'm upset that y'all don't take the things I say to heart and remember them, but I'm going to tell you what Rogue One's secret code name was.
Okay.
Rogue One's secret code name was Red Cup.
I get it. Oh, wait, no. I don't get it.
Red cup for blue milk?
Wow.
What?
Like a solo
Gareth
cup?
Edwards like a big party guy, like frat house guy back in the
You should have
day?
asked him, but he already took off. I couldn't tell you.
Dang.
Should have
He
chosen the
leaves
red
so
cup.
fast.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. I like Josh. They're all sitting around going, what are we going to call this thing? Someone looked down at a solo cup and went, Red Cup, who cares? Can we move on? And some interns furiously.
No, he said
writing-
red cup, and everyone was like, "Oh, high five, bro!"
Cake
This is like that
stand.
one person that's really pissed because they had a good name.
Yeah.
And they keep trying to sneak it in,
Yep.
but everyone always says red cup.
Everybody
from
always
now.
knows the red. Yeah, You're
Red
right.
Cup standing by.
One day they show up with a T-shirt with their name on it. Like, what's that? And they're like, nothing. It's nothing. Don't worry about it.
Well, it's like F8 is Space Bear or something.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. So anyhow, let's bring it back to the Rogue One talk here. We've talked about the CG. We've talked about the ties in episode 4. We talked about how good a villain that Galen is. Can we take a moment?
Krennic.
You mean Orson?
Orson Krennic.
Yeah.
Can I take a moment here and we've touched on it? Can we talk about that scene with Vader?
Which one?
No.
Well,
at the end.
Yeah, at the end.
No, we can't talk about it.
No,
Can you
this-
change my
remind me what
pants
that
real
means?
I'm going to talk about the scene where they're trying to.
Oh, you mean the one where I peed myself?
Yes, that's the one.
That one. Oh, yes. Yeah, we can talk about
I
that.
wasn't sure what fluids those were.
I straight up wet my diaper.
Honest to gosh,
Holy
Own-
cow.
the plans have been beamed aboard this, the Rebel Fleet flagship. It's disabled. So they're basically trying to run a disc in hand that says hope on it.
Yep. In Sharpie.
They're trying to run it to what ultimately will be the Tantive 4, which
Volume
is in the
1.
docking bay of the ship, right? And Vader busts in, and it's very reminiscent of the beginning of episode 4. All these rebel troops are like sitting there waiting for someone to bust in. And it's just smoke.
No.
And instead of hearing a door or like a door getting cut open,
darkness.
You're looking in the dark smoke, and you hear
The footsteps.
Getting chills right now.
yeah, and then the lightsaber comes on. And you're like, oh man, I thought these guys were going to die, but these guys are going to die horribly.
They're going to get murdered.
And Vader is the scariest he has ever
been on
Ever.
film.
This
Oh my
is
God.
what
Unleashed.
this is what Anakin Skywalker looks like as a dark, as a
Right.
Sith Lord.
Oh.
Right.
This
Yes.
is not the old dart trudging Vader David Prowse. This is not one-handed saber fight in Empire because
Wow.
you can't see anything. This is like, what if the Jedi as powerful as Anakin, who slaughtered all the younglings and everybody at the Jedi Academy, is up against a handful of just poor little no-name soldier boys.
like the first level of the Force Unleashed.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. Where
Right.
you're like slaughtering Wookiees and stuff, and you're just like, I am way too powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think one of the most iconic things about Vader is he's not fast moving.
Yeah.
and he's very just go forward.
Precise, powerful.
And they didn't move away from that at all, but still made him.
Yeah, the one hand with the lightsaber was moving like crazy,
Yeah.
deflecting blaster bolts while he's slamming a dude against the ceiling
Right,
and
with the
throwing
force.
other dudes, pulling
Choking
all
them.
of their blasters out of their
Pulling
hands. at
blasters
once.
out. One guy,
Freaking
he
dark
slams
forces,
up,
bro.
slams up against the ceiling, dragging him on the ceiling.
Cuts him in
Just-
half while he goes
Oh
by.
my God!
he does
First
crazy.
off,
One with
first
his
off, I want to
hand,
say,
too.
this scene completely unexpected.
Oh,
I had
yes.
no
No.
clue this was coming.
No.
When we saw, I pissed myself when we got to
The
see Vader's
trailer-
castle. Well, no, when we got to Vader's castle in
Oh
the
wait,
movie.
you mean
yeah.
Darth Vader's Citadel?
And Mustafa.
That's right.
Oh man, that's a sweet one right
Vader's
there, brother.
castle is back, mofos.
Yeah, dude.
The best thing is, though, where's Vader's castle located? Well, that question wasn't directly answered
Right.
because it's the one planet we went to where they didn't put the name of the planet in the bottom right, because I think they're pretty much saying, if you don't know that all this lava means he's on Mustafar, you don't deserve to know.
There were some audio cues in the score that told you it was on Mustafar too.
Jeez, Garrick, you've already lasered in that far? My God, man.
Wow. You were just burrowing.
He was
like
up all night.
He was Googling.
He was up all night with his
I
earbuds
recognized
in.
But
the
anyway,
theme
I mean, I
when
thought
they
that
were-
was gonna be our pinnacle of Vader. I mean, we got to see his servant come in. He's surrounded by Imperial
You
guards.
see Anakin in the back
in the
tank.
back to tank without his suit at all.
You barely see him,
my
but you
gosh.
see
It
him.
worked.
I got chills there. I thought,
yeah.
man, this is great, man.
I'm going to get to see him trudging and pissed off later. I got all the Vader I need.
Right.
But then they give us this
And
scene.
then at the end of the movie,
Holy balls.
it was so unexpected. I did
Oh
not
my-
expect
That was-
this.
I believe-
I almost grabbed your arm right before it's happening. I'm like, get ready, but like I can't.
I don't want to admit to you guys how many times Josh and I held hands during this movie. Like sometimes out of sincerity.
He's not
so sweet.
exaggerating.
No, I'm
by the way.
not. Sometimes out of sincerity, sometimes out of sadness, sometimes out of fear. We did a lot of hand holding during this movie. But oh my
That
God.
scene was
seriously,
not only
my
the
verbal
most
reaction.
tense scene I've seen in a Star Wars movie. It's probably the most
yeah.
tense scene I've ever seen.
Oh
Yeah, I
my
agree.
gosh.
Right.
My verbal reaction verbatim to that scene when I was sitting in the theater was exactly this. like I was losing it. I was scared.
Yes. I am so glad because you know what the tendency anymore with modern movies is to throw away too much stuff in the trailers. Mm-hmm. Thank God they had the wherewithal to withhold
cut it all out.
That would made it so much better for me.
There was there was a moment when I was terrified when you see him light up his lightsaber, and I was thinking in my head, I was like,
they're gonna cut away or
like
something.
Well, that or just like the no sequence, or Count Dooku when he just looked ridiculous fighting. I was like, this is gonna just look Yoda jumping around. I was like, don't please.
Brutal.
And then it felt so real. Like
Even
it felt
how Vader
real.
how Vader
he would move.
His hands are whipping out, lifting dudes, pushing dudes, pulling blasters, taking blaster bolt, absorb, dissipate.
Yeah.
All that crap at the same time, and yet still just
Slowly
moving.
walking.
Slowly coming towards
While this guy is trying to get the attention of people on the other side of the door, he can't get
Oh my
through.
gosh.
No,
it was something out of Aliens. Like, let us out, let us out, let us out.
That's what I was gonna say. That was gonna be my next point. Is we've talked about Vader, but how about these poor saps that are getting slaughtered? They were screaming bloody murder,
screaming
like little babies.
Yeah.
Dear God, open the door! Oh my God!
It was so visceral and without being graphic at all.
Right,
No, you're right.
Yeah,
At all. The most graphic thing about it is a dude being pinned to the ceiling, which was like straight up poltergeist freaky. You know, like,
And you
that looks weird.
Then you see the lightsaber go through the door.
Yeah, exactly. Going through the person through the door.
Yeah, the guy handing off the quote data tape, or no, at that point it's just the disc. But the guy's handing the disc around the door and gets completely like lightsabered, but you don't see it, and that's how that's how they're playing that safe with the violence. You don't see the lightsaber go through him.
Right.
You see the lightsaber come out the other side of the door.
See, and that felt very Star Wars to me.
It
I mean,
was
because
insane.
Star Wars, I mean, has got a lot of violence in it, but it was tastefully done. It was so tastefully
No
done.
dancing.
Well, and
No
then,
saber
it
dancing.
didn't end there, though. I mean, the guy that got the disc
weaving
is like
baskets.
scrambling down the hallway. Like,
Seriously,
He falls
I
down.
saw what is on the other side of that door.
Yeah.
I'm out. Bye.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Yeah.
He never sleeps again.
No, ever. No. He drinks himself silly, wakes up half naked in the living room, and then just goes down to his therapist and then starts drinking again. That guy's not going to live a normal life.
No, he's
Well,
hooked
let's
on
be honest.
Glitterstim
You guys
now,
know
and
that guy died on Tampa
Yeah.
4,
Yeah, I
right?
was gonna say,
Yeah,
let's
true.
be honest. That's probably the guy that got choked out by
Choked.
Vader later. He's barely holding it together. He's like, well, karma's a bitch.
He's the guy who gave up where Yavin 4 was. So.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, it was.
You know what? I was talking to a couple of you when we came out of the theater, and actually I think I was talking to Toby too here when we got here. Prior to this, we hadn't seen a Vader Unleashed like that.
No.
And prior to that, all we had some video game stuff, but more recently we've had the Rebels episodes. We've had a couple of Vader Rebel episodes,
Which we got real excited about.
Yeah, very excited.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
thought that's the best I
That's
was
the pinnacle.
could
We-
expect.
I think we said that on this podcast.
Yeah.
Like, that's as good as that's ever going to get. We're never going to see Vader
because
like
I
that.
think they handled him very well too. The first time we saw Vader and he was in a confrontation, it was with Ezra and Kanan, and they were trying to get on the ship, and they got everybody else on the ship, but that they, confronted Vader, and remember they pulled down an AT-ST on him and all kinds of stuff, and they're like, okay, we took care of him, and they're walking away, and all of a sudden the AT-ST is like being lifted in the air with the Force, and we're like, you're right, we thought that was going to be the pinnacle of what we'd ever see with Vader.
But no, just Vader walking down the hall and slaughtering some poor
Oh
mofos.
my God.
Some poor Mr. Falcons just eating it in the hallway. Oh man, scary as heck.
It was
the back,
frightening.
The back to tank. This is something I thought of, and when you see him like literally hung up like a scarecrow, and part of me
missing
thought,
and everything.
Part of me thought how miserable his life is, and how painful every single day.
What Empire did to show you the back of his head in his meditation chamber and go, oh man, his life sucks. Now it's like you look at it and you're like,
and how much anger he really carries every single time he leaves, and he has to put on all this armor,
and he's just in pain,
and how, because like when you get a sunburn, you gotta like lay there, and you're like literally like with aloe, and you're like all like, man, leave me alone, don't touch me. And then this guy has to like literally put aloe on every single day.
Now I
and then wear a suit and then kill people.
How much more sunshiny would Vader have been if he had Saw Gerrera's sleep apnea suit?
That's what I
think. Maybe if he slept better without all the wheezing.
I'm glad you're going to Saw Gerrera. I love that character.
I
by
do
the
too.
way.
I so expected to hate him, I didn't.
I loved
really
him.
liked him.
He was great.
And what I'm loving about him too, and what he represents is the fact that finally, we didn't get this with Force Awakens, but finally we're starting to get this united universe.
Yes,
that Disney has been promising.
The canon that actually matters.
Because for people that don't remember, Saw Gerrera actually, that character was introduced in the Clone Wars series.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is 5 years ago.
Yeah. Garrick members.
Garrick members. So I mean, and at that time he was a young man who was just starting to rebel and start his extremist movement and all that stuff. And then I can't remember where else did we run into him in one of the books or in
Catalyst.
Yeah, he was in Catalyst.
So I mean, just the fact that they brought that a character in. That they and actually there's some other little Easter eggs. We had, not just. Oh, okay.
No, don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Technical difficulties, folks. Anyway, there was a little ship at the Battle of Scarif, right?
Indeed, that it was. I'm glad you brought it up because I was looking very closely and I saw not one, but 2 different shots that had the ghost from Rebels in it.
Ghost.
That's right.
Welcome back into the movie.
I saw it twice. Garrick, did you see it?
Garrick.
Did you see it?
I did.
Garrick?
I did see it.
Nobody else saw it, but I was looking for it. I suddenly realized, this is where it's going to be. It's going to be here, and then immediately saw it fly toward the camera. There was a cutaway, and then a different angle, and I saw it flying away from the camera. And I was like, "Yeah,
that was awesome."
So we don't.
Here's problem. I'm not sure that I saw it leave the battle. I'm only seen the movie once. Got to see it at least 10 more times. But
yeah, at least
this year. But I did not. I'm not sure that I saw it leave the battle. So. It's possible that that's where some of our rebel friends met their end. We need to do more research. That's a question mark.
Well,
we're not sure.
now, this is something that Petrie pointed out.
Yeah,
as we're
I missed this
there.
completely.
Yeah, and we haven't talked to Garrick about this, so I don't know if he heard this yet either. But as the group of rebels on Yavin 4 have decided to, we're not going to do anything. They're breaking up, and Cassian and Jin decide to go outside and put this ragtag group together. As they're walking out of the bunker, in the background, there's in the speaker it says General Syndulla.
Yeah.
Please report to the.
I did
blah,
hear
blah, blah.
them say somebody, but I didn't catch the name.
It was General.
Shut your
Syndulla.
face.
So Hera is out of all probability, Hera from Rebels is a general.
Is a general,
and she's probably the one flying the ghost, and she may or may not have bid it at the Battle of Scarif.
That's awesome.
So sit on that.
Yeah,
we
man.
need to do some studying, some research.
Now we know how Rebels ends.
See, Rebels ends right as Rogue One starts, right? Is that how it's going to go?
Yeah, I hope. I hope, but I doubt it.
But guys, that really excites me, man. It excites me that they're starting to pull in these. I mean, finally, I was hoping that we'd see that with Force Awakens, but I just have this feeling that. I don't know. We'll have to see what Rian Johnson does, but I'm not very confident that he's going to pull much in.
No, I don't think he's got a lot vested in it. But if the fan appreciation is as loud as it can be for this movie, maybe Ep 9 has got a chance of seeing a few little Easter eggs sneak in.
There's
like
one
that.
thing I do need to point out for people that don't remember or don't know. The writer for this movie for Rogue One is Gary Whitta, and Gary has written Rebels episodes.
He has,
so I know that his influence definitely was seen in this movie.
This was a good movie. It was really
There's another other thing maybe you would want to know that who's the main Jyn Erso? I want to say what's her name again? Her real name? Felicity Jones. She actually has a sequel in her contract, or another movie, I should say, in her contract.
Another Star Wars movie?
Yeah. It better be a prequel.
So there's speculation maybe she would be in the Han Solo movie, and maybe they're just going to tie the spin-offs together somehow.
Yeah. I was going to say, because spoiler alert, like we said, everybody dies. Everybody dies.
Actually, I'm kind of glad you got. Did you make your point, Garrett? Because I don't.
Yeah, that's the point. That's all I got.
So. I wanted to go there because we had some predictions a couple of casts ago about who was going to live and who wasn't.
Did you predict somebody was going to die? You were right.
Nailed it.
I think I can't remember what everybody did. My prediction was that everybody but Cassian would die.
Is it Cassian or Cassian?
Cassian.
Okay.
Cassian, Andor.
Mike mispronounce.
That was the reason I asked the question.
I got baited. I took the bait.
I guess so.
But yeah, I don't remember what I said. Howie, did you and I both agree that everybody was dying?
Well, I think ultimately I said they have every reason to be able to kill everyone off.
Yeah.
Because there was no need to.
I just, after seeing it and seeing that they did kill off the entire group, I don't know how they could have ended it any other way.
Such amazing ways.
Did we get any even
ways.
secondary characters that survived this movie?
Biston.
I don't think we did. New ones, I mean.
Died.
No. Well, Bale.
But he wasn't new.
No, he wasn't new.
Also, he doesn't make it very long.
Not much.
Like about a day.
Give or take.
Mon Calamari, dude. Admiral Akbar's dad or whatever.
Yeah, he wasn't. I mean,
what about,
he wasn't part of our group.
He didn't make it.
What about General Draven?
No, he was piloting the Hammerhead ship that slammed into the Star Destroyers.
Did they didn't reverse in time? I don't know.
I'm assuming not,
I thought
but
I
don't
saw
know
him
for
jump
sure.
out of system with the rest of them, but it could have been
some of
one.
them some of them jumped out.
Well,
they
if
had
you remember,
3.
they had 3. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it could have been a different one.
Okay, so everybody in our main group dies.
Which, by the way, have we even mentioned that on a podcast that the use the Hammerhead cruiser?
That was awesome.
That was supposedly
From
one
Rebels.
of the 3 from Rebels.
From Rebels,
Yep.
man.
Yeah, those old cruisers.
Great tie-ins,
Yes.
man.
That scene was awesome too.
The whole space battle
made it all
was
matter
amazing.
so much more.
Let's talk about the space battle.
These little episodes these little episodes of Rebels that were just one-offs are suddenly really important. You know, like the episode with young Leia where they get those 3 cruisers. That cruiser was the rebels would have lost. The Empire would have lived. The Death Star would have survived everything if it weren't for that Hammerhead cruiser.
And one of the proton bombs killed Galen.
Yeah,
what's that?
One of the proton bombs killed Galen. That they stole in Rebels.
Yes, theoretically, yeah.
I just feel like though that all the deaths and they started falling and when you kind of felt the dominoes start to fall.
Oh yeah,
it was
the timing was
K2,
the first one
with K2.
With K2, that was
kind of
gut wrenching.
Very gut wrenching for a character we just met.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't expect and you wouldn't expect to be that
comic relief droid, no less.
Yeah,
right. But once you started hearing him and his voice is starting to crack and
and he's having trouble actually putting a sentence together because his language circuits are
oh my gosh, that was rough, man.
That was rough.
I'm never powering down my computer again.
God, and then Bodhi, I mean, how Bodhi goes.
Disable sleep mode forever.
If C-3PO ever died, I would almost just laugh.
I would celebrate.
About time, Goldenrod.
This character was amazing.
I said it earlier that I was actually more sad than when K2SO died or just decommissioned or whatever you call it.
Slagged.
I was way more sad. I'm not kidding you than I was when Han Solo died. I'm not kidding. I was sitting there and
bro.
I was like, I'm not kidding you. I know I it's not that I don't love those characters of the OT, but I was seriously sitting there and I was like, I could feel it. Like I was like, no, like these.
Well, I mean, Force Awakens. I mean, all the rumors beforehand that we kind of knew that he was done.
It was happening.
Right.
Kind of ruined it.
We
for
kind of
me.
knew that was going to happen.
You had
But
no
also,
idea?
no, really.
No.
The build up to Han Solo dying, like when they start going, it was like, okay, he's in a situation now where he's willing to take the chance that he might die. Whereas with K2, it's like, I ain't got no options. I'm just going to fight for you guys until I'm gone. Like that was
yeah.
Yeah.
But the domino for all of them, Bodhi, the grenade comes into the ship and it blows up, and then
like just as he gets the signal off in time, he dies.
And
Chirrut and Blaze.
They look off in the distance and see the ship blowing up, and you just kind of see they're all kind of start getting sunken in the face, and just.
I mean, like he just
except
barely.
Chirrut Imwe, he didn't see anything.
I'm blind.
But Chirrut's death too, man. I mean,
that was tough.
How great was that?
Well, and his whole mantra the whole time, doing as Josh pointed out, I'm one with the Force is with me.
Chant, right.
His thing that he's chanting while it's happening, and his buddy who just basically, they're bros. They're always together. They've been together forever. They crack wise about each other and stuff. And he doesn't, he believes in the Force, but he doesn't give a crap about it. He's just like, oh, you're a suspicious old dreamer. But he's sitting there holding him dying, and then he starts chanting it as well.
Yeah, that was great.
And then he stands up, he's chanting, you're like, oh, he's about to have a moment, but then he does the best thing he can do at that moment, which as he's chanting, I'm one with the Force is with me. Am I getting that right? racks his shotgun blaster.
He goes full
going,
Boromir.
And so he doesn't drop his gun and start doing something dumb. He just gets up and racks that effort, and it's just hilarious. He's like, the force is with me. Chick, time to lay waste. And I was just like, that was the most BA thing a dude could do while also like chanting this spiritual mantra.
You should mention their employment, what their employment title was.
Oh my gosh! No, yeah, well, specifically, Chirrut Emcee was a guardian of the wills.
That was fantastic.
Welcome
Are
back.
you kidding me?
Welcome back.
Yeah, I
That's
don't know
first
if I
time in a
really feel-
movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
The Wills, for people who don't know,
it was in the
original
episode 4 novelization.
right?
Yeah.
In the very first drafts and everything, when they would talk about the history of the galaxy, the history was kept in what was called the Journal of the Wills.
Right,
So
and that was
this
in the
goes
original title
way-
of the Star Wars Wars.
Right. Yeah.
It was
Star-
Anakin
the
Starkiller
Wars,
and the
Journal
of the Wills or something.
I squealed like a little girl when Cassian was told
was
told
pretty
the
cool.
audience
Well,
what they were.
And think about how appropriate it is that, Jeddah, which is supposedly like one of the original places where the Jedi get their name. It's one of the original major seats spiritually for the Jedi, and it's been long destroyed. I mean, you see all these massive statues just like half covered with dirt and sand laying on the ground, and these guys were still there. It's somehow before the Empire as guardians of the wills. So that was still a thing that was not at the center of the political Jedi Order, but it was still a thing that existed from their history. And in this movie, they wiped it out, which justifies in a lot of ways that it's never a subject anybody ever talks about. It actually weaves such a beautiful continuity thread
It also-
into how
it
this
also weaves-
exists without being a focus.
It also weaves this narrative that the Jedi at some point lost their way. Like it seemed like that place was run down, and they've
the
moved.
implications of other like novelizations and stuff that we could get about where that break took place, or where it, the Jedi became more of a political thing, which Qui-Gon pointed out. Qui-Gon was one of his things. Is like, this is, and who was it that was talking about? It was Josh.
Right.
When we were out on the porch talking about how Qui-Gon was all about following the living force, which is, it really seemed to be the embodiment of what Chirrut Emcee was about.
The more spiritual side of the promptings and the followings, as opposed to the dogma.
And just by sitting there listening and feeling the situation, he would just get up and take action because he suddenly knew that someone was doing something that was right in the Force, which
I'm
is
following her because her path is clear.
I half expected his body to disappear when he died.
I almost thought that was going to happen too.
He embodied so much of what I loved about this movie, because there were so many times, one, where this movie avoided cliches that it could have fallen into traps.
Yeah.
So I was nervous. Okay, we're gonna get ninja guy here and blah. But when he kicked ass, it worked. It was not shoved down my face.
And he only really did that in his opening, or not opening, but like his big showcase early scene. And after that, it was all about the deeper parts of his character.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it wasn't over the top either. I think to what you're saying, it wasn't over the top crazy ninja flying through the air stuff.
No, but I totally want to see Ip Man now.
Oh, that's a great show. You should see it.
Oh, man.
But let me just say, I loved the character that is the Force in this movie. Of course, we've already talked about how the Force was unleashed at the very
Toby
end.
should like this because it was a lot more mystical.
Yes.
It was left
That's
to
what I
it wasn't
love.
midichlorians and explanations.
It wasn't
You're saying
overly
exactly
explained.
what Toby said out on the porch when you were inside shoving your Taco Bell down your gullet.
Ew.
Like, Toby's out there going, man, I just love the fact that it's not Force isn't like a thing that's in your blood that you like, inject.
You don't have to have you didn't have to have some sort of genealogical advantage.
Right.
You are literally
Even the everyman
everybody can tap into the Force.
Corey,
and-
you had some words to say about kyber crystals. I believe in the last episode. I want to get now
Well, those are
post
the
Rogue
movies.
One.
There was a couple episodes
Real
ago.
quick before we go there, I want to touch on Jin and Cash.
Oh, they're
Cassian's-
biting at scene.
They're biting at
Aw,
scene
that was
because
sad.
that was another one that I thought was very well done. That's one. Whoever was talking about the cliches,
Yeah, they could have been making out.
Right,
Yeah.
they could have been making out on that beach, and I was like, oh, please
I
don't
know.
go, please don't go there.
I
please don't go
expected
there.
them to lay back in Adirondack chairs and one of them to pop out a Corona. Really, they're laying on the beach
Longest Corona
watching
commercial
their
ever.
fate set.
I just thought it was very appropriately done. They just embraced, and there was nothing, like I don't know,
Sexual?
man, woman, sexual about it or
No,
anything.
they almost
it was
like
just
they
two people
almost
that,
nuzzled for a second up
Right.
on the tower, but that was just because they both went through so much
right,
hell.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I loved how that was done. Plus, by the way, and I'm going to pose this question to you guys too, because I mean, the trailers in my mind led us to believe, because there was a scene that was deleted. We talked about, I can't remember if we talked about in the cast here before we started, but in the trailer, it shows a scene where they're running down the beach with the data tapes in their hand. Mm-hmm. So my impression, my thought was, gee, I wonder if it wasn't originally written that they got on a shuttle and jumped off planet.
Yeah.
And that hey, our two main guys made it out.
And Disney was like, no,
right, which is so weird because that would seem the exact opposite of what I would have expected. I would have expected Disney to say, no, we need to get our main guys off. Yeah. Instead, it seems like Disney stepped in and said, no, you need to kill them all.
We need impact.
Yeah.
We need impact.
And that was impactful. To be able to kill off that whole group was insanely
to watch
impactful.
The two of them sitting on the beach watching, the Hiroshima mushroom cloud flying at them. You know what I mean?
Jeez, man.
That was insane.
I got misty-eyed.
I did too. I honestly had moist eyes. The sides of my eyes were generally wetted.
And we're not big fans of the score, but the score worked in that moment.
It worked. And honestly,
there were some good. I kind of downplayed the score. There were some good moments for the score.
And honestly, in The Force Awakens, the score did nothing for me. I never noticed it. Which again, you can argue that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I was unimpressed. This movie had a few points where I really liked what the score was doing. Mm-hmm. I found it a little confusing. We had a big discussion about the fact that there are parts of it that sounded a lot like Padme's theme to me, which I thought was strange. But big thing I want to talk about is obviously we got no text crawl, which we kind of heard was coming, but we actually got a little bit of story, and then we got the title screen. Now there was a long time ago, Galaxy Far, Far Away, but we had a little bit of story, then the title screen. And it was not the Star Wars main theme.
It was an audio member.
That was a little.
It was cheap.
Best.
I hated it. I hated it
too. I thought it was weak. It sounded like someone said, "Well, let's do something in that key," but then we'll just kind of finagle it. And I'm like, that sounded so generic.
It sounded like some MIDI type thing you make. It was like something I'd buy stock audio.
I don't want to get sued by Lucasfilm.
So. I was like,
I feel like
it was garbage.
For me, most of the score was that way. It felt very generic to me, especially for the quality. I can't remember who the composer was.
Michael Giacchino or Giacchino. It's however.
I don't know.
It was one of my all-time favorites, by the way.
Listening to the tracks independently as released,
actually
sound pretty good. But in the movie, at the scenes where it was featured the most, it felt really generic. But the scenes where it wasn't that heavily featured, where it was just kind of playing and kind of amplifying the emotions, it actually was really nice.
Yeah.
So I'm hit and miss about the
I'm gonna have to digest it a
movie.
little bit more, but my initial impression is I'm not impressed.
The theme song,
that was the weakest part.
The theme song to me was just an absolute drop ball. The title theme, the music that played when the title came up,
it should have been Star Wars.
It should have been the Star Wars theme.
You know why? Well, I disagree with that, but you know why?
It could have been a better song, and I would have been better.
I think the reason why it's a drop ball is I think Kathleen Kennedy, from what we have talked about before, they took a long time to figure out if they wanted to do that or not.
Didn't this movie get scored in like 6 weeks or something like that?
They had another guy, and then they
Giacchino stepped out.
He stepped in.
He was the guy that stepped in and
it's
finished.
entirely likely that this is just a quick revision. So maybe that's a lesson learned by the time we get to the Han Solo movies.
I think they were scared. I honestly believe they were fearful of putting out something that was not. It felt like the no crawl, the no.
Yeah.
It's like they were just kind of like,
we need to distance ourselves.
We need to distance ourselves just in case if this fails.
Which I'm like, that's just more confusing.
Actually,
like we've said,
I complete opposite with you guys. I love the fact they did it not for people who are big fans of Star Wars, but I'm glad they did it for the people who have no freaking clue that this is not Episode 8.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Because this made it very clear if there is no. It doesn't say Star Wars. It just says Rogue One.
Yeah, there's no text
crawl.
That doesn't come till late in the closing
freaking
credits.
Clear. This is not part of that main Star Wars.
But at the same time,
I would say though that a text crawl would have cleared that up even better.
Text crawl on the nose. Oh, guys, this is not Star Wars.
Who reads text crawls?
Again, I read this someplace and it made it very, very clear that why in the hell would you put a text crawl when the whole freaking text crawl for Episode 4 is this?
That's true.
It's a point.
It's a good point.
It's a point.
It's a valid point.
I honestly, I would have been okay with a different song. I think the reason why I want the Star Wars song is because it's tried and true. It's proven. It works.
Yes.
The reason, that's the why. And I don't have faith for other people to be as good as John Williams in his prime. or any of the other great
Well, we have to get to the point we're moving past that. We have to move past that.
I know, but
even John Williams today is not John Williams back then.
That's fine, but it needs to be as quality because the score is an essential
I don't disagree about the quality.
Yeah.
I disagree with the whole let's just do Star Wars main theme because no one can do it better.
Well,
find someone who can do a good.
On the upside, though,
theme.
this was a Star Wars movie.
No, it wasn't. It was not.
It was a Star Wars story.
It was Rogue One. It didn't say that at all.
No, but the
it
trailers.
just says
Star Wars
Rogue
trailers.
It just says Rogue One.
A Star Wars story.
Look at the title.
Star Wars story.
When the title comes out, it just says Rogue One.
If Darth Vader's in it, it's a Star Wars movie.
Howie, this movie was actually part of Star Wars. I don't know if it's
the official
really
title.
Surprised that got past you.
The official title is Rogue
One. This is part of
a
Transformers.
Star Wars story.
This is the best Transformers movie I have ever seen.
Because Michael Bay did it.
I would agree.
Return of the Jedi doesn't say Return of the Jedi, Star Wars.
Yeah,
it
that's just
Star
A New
Wars.
Hope.
It says the Star Wars.
It absolutely. Anyway.
Return of the Jedi didn't say New Hope.
No,
yeah, you're right. You're right about that.
That's a good point.
But honestly, I if they had someone else that could compose at that level, and it's the same thing that,
or if it wasn't rushed, if that was the case,
yeah,
I think it was the
It's
rush.
the same
That's
thing.
Exactly
Let me get this out. It's the same thing that I complained earlier about the handheld camera. I have to eat that because they're, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, it is not fact, and other people can disagree, but in my opinion, handheld camera is a gimpy way to make a movie. And all these young directors are doing it because that's what they came up knowing. And I don't think they could make a classic looking movie, most of them, if their lives depended on it, because they've never had to do it. And so they make it this way, and I hate it. And it's just this new way of doing things that I think sucks. I feel the same way about a lot of composers. I feel like masterful composers like James Horner and stuff like that. Those guys are falling out. We're losing them.
Well, and
we're losing them, and we don't have it anymore.
To your point about
because you can
the
write
camera.
a score on an iPad anymore.
Right.
No,
but to your point,
you can write
this composer, this
good score.
This composer, Michael is Giacchino. He has done so some of my favorites like Up, Inside Out. I mean, he's done those Pixar movies, Incredibles. He's done that. Lost. Dude, there are themes in Lost that are just unbelievable.
And just
I use them.
You compose something amazing doesn't mean they edit it into the film correctly.
But he understands stories, like
because,
thematic tones to like come
don't
together.
you compose the edited film though? That's when the film's done editing.
If the director says,
I think it was rushed.
If the director says, no, I want to have this here and this here.
That's true. Last minute changes.
See, now,
because you listen to the music, we just listen to a little bit of it, and I'm like, wow, that sounds amazing.
It does sound better. The tracks sound better than they did in the movie.
I agree. I mean, part of it's direction, and that's the one of the things that Lucas always did right with all his films is he was always there with John Williams, and giving him direction. Okay, tapping the table. I get it. Dear God. He was always with John Williams, giving him direction on, to the push and pull. I mean, music was big for George Lucas.
Yeah.
Definitely not the case for J.J. Abrams, and definitely not the case here.
No, it felt like Force Awakens felt like J.J. Abrams just went, I'm out of here, and dropped off like a beat up FedEx package on John Williams' porch. And, with some signed pictures from Daisy Ridley, I'm assuming. But honestly, the music in this movie was overall not bad. But it had a few spots that were glaringly weak.
I like the way you said it. It kind of sounded watered down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generic.
It was
generic.
I would get
not
more
Star Wars quality.
I would get more goosebumps out of playing like Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight, where they just wove together all these bits and pieces that were redone, and they would play just triggered based on what I was doing, whether I was fighting and stuff. It was so generic and basic, but yet it felt so right. And this and the Force Awakens.
I do want to add. I got to see it twice. I was lucky enough to see it twice already.
Nice. I like the fact you said lucky.
Yeah.
I'm better.
And
I'm better.
Not only did I like the second time around even better, but specifically talking about the score, I noticed it and liked it better than the first time when I.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Well, if you see it
good.
another 8 or 9 times, you'll be in the middle row at the rate you're going.
Yeah.
You might get back there.
That's right. Howie's first time, he accidentally reserved it. We have a reserved seating, and it is so when you look at the diagram, when you buy a ticket, there's a computer screen, and you have all the seats and rows to choose from, and it's so convincing that the screen is at one side when in reality it's at the opposite. It's at the top or
and
bottom.
the only seats left were very back and very front.
Right.
And I thought I was picking the very back.
And he didn't. He picked the front row.
Oh, wow.
And then we just saw it in the third row. So, yeah.
Much better.
Much better in the third row, believe it or not. Thank goodness it's at least a curved screen, I guess.
Pluses and minuses for this film, and as much as they steered away from a lot of cliches that we didn't want to happen, they still went with the old the one planet, one climate thing.
Yeah, for the most part.
No.
I'm not disappointed
I'm
about it.
all right with that. That's just something that...
Sure.
I mean,
Jeddah, wasteland.
Right.
Yavin 4, jungle.
Right.
Actually,
Edu, it was not.
Edu, rainy, craggy place.
Right.
No,
Rocky
but
place.
hold on. That's not necessarily true because they didn't try to pan off these planets as being completely that way for us. They just landed at a place and then
Scarif
took
was
off.
Hawaii.
Where they landed, right. But
Where they landed, we didn't get the... It wasn't,
the rest of it was water.
You're making that assumption because it's Star Wars.
Right.
That's not something that this movie would try to convince us of. Whereas I would say Force Awakens did. Force Awakens made it clear that all of Starkiller Base was covered in ice, which makes sense because it's not always around a sun.
Let's not talk about Starkiller Base.
Yeah.
I was like, that was the worst part.
Hey, we wanted to talk about kyber crystals, and that reminds me.
No, we
because
didn't.
One line,
Mike tarkened me,
We did.
and I feel like Krennic right now.
One line that Chirrut Imwe just volunteers in the middle of a scene awkwardly, which was great, was that at the center of every great star is kyber. Did you guys pick up on that line?
Yeah, I did.
Now that you
The Death Star is powered by kyber crystals. So what does that mean? It means that Starkiller Base was also kind of powered by kyber crystals. I'm just saying, it's everywhere now.
No,
it's
that was
the new
powered
hot
by
thing,
sun
guys. Get your kyber.
energies.
Because it would go to a star and it would eat the star. And at the center of every great star is kyber. I'm just saying, it came straight out of Chirrut Imwe's mouth.
We don't know that if he was being literal or...
we don't, but it
mystical.
is a weird... It didn't have any context.
All right, kyber crystals are a thing.
Yeah, I want to talk about the space battle. With
No,
Howie
hold
now.
on. We'll go to space battle after we get done with kyber crystals.
Nope.
I promise. The kyber crystals, the front half of the movie was really loaded with it. It was too heavy. And then after that, they stopped talking about it almost completely.
Thank God.
And I was so thankful. I was tired of hearing the word already.
Right. They could have. And they were kind of spitting it out at a rapid pace at one point.
Yeah, because that's what they're doing on Jeddah. They're stealing all the kyber crystals out of the temples and stuff like that. Kyber.
I mean, it was kind of a main point there at the beginning. So.
Right. But it was just, when you have a new fictional word and you use it a lot, it stands out because it's not a normal English word. And it's not a new word to us, but to a normal movie-going audience, it's like, what is this thing they keep talking about, So, and they made it clear what it was for. It was for fueling the Death Star or whatnot. And I roll for me there. But I already knew that was a thing. That was fine.
We told you that.
Yeah. And I suspected it anyway. But yeah, I was glad they kind of got away from dwelling on the crystals and how important they are later on. Like, even the necklace. I expected there to be some moment where the necklace was going to be a MacGuffin that saved the day. I so thought she was going to find a broken lightsaber, take off her necklace, shove it in, and stab somebody.
She brought it out, held it, and kind of did like a little prayer when they were trying to go through the gate.
I thought Krennic was going to shoot her in the crystal and would reflect and hit him in the
that
head.
was halfway through the movie. After that, almost no mention of it, which I was very thankful for. So, okay, space battle. Highlights of the space battle.
All of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Star Destroyer.
I like seeing... Yeah, Star Destroyer slamming into Star Destroyers.
Coming in on the backside of an X-wing,
jumping out of hyperspace.
Hyperspace.
That was
cool. Amazing.
Wow,
that was amazing.
And I'm going to tell you now. I know what it looks like. Finally, after all these years, all these video games, I finally know what it looks like for a few dogfighters to slam into a planetary shield and skitter across the surface.
Yeah, wasn't that cool?
Parts.
Oh my God.
Sweet justice. That was harsh and so violent and awesome.
Or smash
And
into
even the X-wings when they're sorry, Garrick. When they were coming out of Lightspeed, and then boom, you're in system, and there's the Star Destroyer. He's like, "Well, this is what the pilots see."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Or when the Vader Star Destroyer plows out of hyperspace.
That poor transport.
And just snow plows through. It's the Rebel fleet is literally hyper jumping out, and the front rows are boom, 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 boom. But the last ones, crunch. Because as they're jumping out, the Star Destroyer jumps in and they just blast against the front of the thing.
I saw like a family of 5 get blasted out of there. It was that raw.
Oh my gosh.
It was like 3 kids, a droid, a puppy. There was a puppy that got thrown out.
Yeah, just trying to drive their medium cruiser.
There was so much to like about this space battle, but I want to comment on the special effects, because I mean this was all CGI, but what I loved about this is that they almost made it look like plastic.
They broke apart like models. They didn't try to cover everything with explosions, which is what you normally do.
Yes.
When you have CGI collisions, you just cover it with sparks and explosions. No, they showed crap just shatter.
Debris.
Loved it.
Oh,
I mean, it was just so. Yeah, I mean,
I think I saw Red 5's hand at one point go flying through.
Yeah, at some point. But yeah, by the way, that's a nice nod. Red 5 bit it.
Yes,
in the movie. So
opening up a spot for
one young Mr. Skywalker to join a couple weeks later.
Mind blown.
Toby just got it.
Red
also
5 got killed.
Reusing footage of Red Leader in the movie
and Gold Leader
and Gold Leader in the movie, and they did is they used similar lines from the episode 4 space battle, but then they would cut away and the line would end differently, so it felt like they were in the movie, even though it's just old footage, and it looked so great.
So I love that. So the chatter of these guys talking back and forth with the whistles of the X-Wings.
Yeah.
That felt so much more real and like the original. The Force Awakens didn't have that. That felt like the episode 1 chatter, like, where's he going? Oh, what's happening here? And it felt so.
That's not ours.
Let's try spinning. That's a good move.
But the Force Awakens felt like that. I hated that language. It didn't feel real. But these guys,
Force Awakens felt so. The chatter felt so
disjointed.
But I mean,
you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like that, and that space chatter, and that
like real guys that are in dogfights and battle,
and
gals. Yeah, that's cool. But she even sounded real. She sounded like It felt. Oh, dude, I have such a love affair with this movie. I want to make love
Corey
to it.
brought it up too.
I don't care.
Well, not just the space battle, but do you want to take it? I don't want to steal your thunder.
I have no idea where you're going.
The
so
X-Wings.
Steal my thunder. Oh, seeing X-Wings.
X-Wing?
I felt so happy to see what it's like when the space dogfighters get to take on an AT-AT.
That was awesome.
Thank you. Yeah,
because here we have the scene. We have a scene where I can't remember what Chirrut gun buddy. What's his name?
Baze.
Baze. He gets up and he's got his rocket launcher. He loads it up. We've seen it in the trailer. Fires it at the head of the AT-AT, and the AT-AT's head turns sideways. And you're like, oh, did it kill it? Did it kill it? But then it leans back. Its guns aim up, and then it effing explodes. Because X-Wings are swooping in and blasting the shiznit out of them. And it's like, and there are going to be people who don't connect the dots. There are going to be people who are fans of the original trilogy, but maybe not uber nerds,
don't
right?
Understand why
they're going to go, well, wait a minute. I thought that armor's too strong for blasters. No,
that was speeders.
Those were snow speeders that were upgraded just for Hoth. Right. Those were the T-47s.
They were Atmo fighters.
Yeah, they're air speeders.
Right.
They're T-47s that were adapted to the climate.
Right.
And they were not that powerful.
Right.
Everything was just augmented on them.
The X-Wings can pierce armor.
X-Wings can pierce armor. So then the question is, well, why didn't they use them in Hoth if they're so good at it? Because they were trying to evacuate, and any space-faring thing had to get in the air to get out. Also, remember, the X-Wings were guarding two to a freighter. Two to a freighter. They had 2 X-Wings for every freighter. And so they were all being used up. So they knew the T-47s were all going to die. Yeah. They knew that. The rogues were on a suicide mission, more or less. There.
Actually, doesn't Luke, while he's in getting his flight suit on, he's talking with 2-1-B or something, talks about leaving the T-47s or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, we'll take, we'll leave the heavy equipment or, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I think there's even a line in there that
and isn't there a carrier taking off in the background when he's talking to R2 during that moment?
When they get done and he's getting
he's like, he's like literally having a cocktail, like as if the whole thing was over. It's like Darth Vader's hunting down his friends with like this, like what we just saw in Rogue One. He's like, I don't know, dude. Like, where's my Gatorade? I'm
going to dig.
I'm thirsty. Hey, and he's just just chilling.
I'm outta here.
I'm outta here.
Speaking of R2, what about our little appearance by R2 and 3PO there on Yavin 4?
Interesting.
You know
Well,
what?
they were in the
I mean,
movie.
they had to be there. They didn't necessarily have to be on film.
They should have
but
to be there because it's not a Star Wars
I am
movie,
so
remember?
No, that's right.
That makes absolutely zero sense.
Bail Organa was there, so it made sense that they were there as well.
I am
Oh,
so
yeah.
incredibly okay with that scene. I
am too. I thought
mean,
it was
there
fine.
was a lot of like little member berries, like we like to joke about throughout this movie.
Yeah. However, not to the extent that inspired the
Yeah,
South
what
Park
about-
episode about member berries.
But
it's not
there-
nearly that.
It
in your
wasn't
face.
to me. Yeah, it wasn't in your face. It wasn't as ham-fisted, and the story was so good going on around it. I just didn't. I didn't
about
care.
Ponda Baba?
I didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What about
let's be
Ponda Baba and Dr.
I have a question
I
about
laughed.
this because shortly after they ran into him, Jeddah City bit it.
Yeah, so they
So
must
they
have
had
been
to
on their
on
way
the way out.
Yeah, they
I mean,
must have
they
been
were
on their
leaving
way to
to
Tatooine.
They lost their ones.
So they were really pissed when they ran into Luke.
Up until this movie, they had the death sentence in 13 systems. But then one was taken care of. They didn't have to worry about their legal troubles.
Was it
on
just
Jedi
me, or was
anymore.
Ponda Baba holding him back from?
It looked like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was.
Dr. Evazan was going to start that fight, and Ponda Baba was like, "No, bro, don't worry. There's some young kids we can kick around in some backwoods planet somewhere. It'll be
We'll go
fine."
drink it off in a bar in Tatooine.
Exactly.
Yeah, oh no! How can me draw architecture with only one? No, okay, that was
Yeah.
a robot chicken thing.
No. Remember, he was practicing to be a concert celloist or
right.
something like
Oh,
that.
was that it?
There's another thing I appreciated about the battle scenes, and in the past we've seen the generals kind of strategizing and even in mid-battle strategizing, but it didn't feel like maybe they had, like, I don't know, researched actual battle.
Yeah.
Like, you know, how would these dogfights take place?
Yeah.
And the interaction between the generals on the rebel side, and all of a sudden, you know, they take out an entire destroyer, and then a suggestion's made, okay, let's, you know, ram it into the other one, and just the strategizing and the way that we saw it playing out in real time.
Yeah.
Felt authentic.
And he was like moving around, like looking down.
Oh yeah, with
swinging
his,
back around, yelling at people.
his
like
glass bottom command ship.
Yeah, he
was
was
in.
just like he was everywhere. He
It
was
looked
like,
his chair looks like it's built out of like shaky PVC pipe.
That was a
It was
horrible
so
place for
wonderful.
command module too.
You got to have a lot of
Yeah,
shields.
right
there.
up front,
Right at front
surrounded
bottom,
by glass.
sticking out.
yeah.
All right, well, gentlemen, before we tie this wonderful one off, I'm going to go around the table one more time. We're going to go clockwise again. I want to know how many times total you plan to see this in theaters, Mike.
Probably 5 or 6.
Yeah,
man.
I don't doubt that. You're one of those. I should have
I'm one
gone
of
the other
those.
direction.
Is this our final comment time? Or?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so if you have something else to say your piece.
Well, don't
right?
just no.
No, you're not. No,
No, I know you.
Answer the question.
Just answer the question. We'll do a final thoughts moment afterward.
I'll see it a minimum of 2 more times. We'll
Yeah?
see. Yeah.
Okay, Howie, you've seen it twice. How many total?
Man, that's tough. I'd like to at least see it one more time,
Yeah.
but I'm really kind of anxious also to see it on my own.
Oh
yeah.
That's the thing I'm hot for.
And being
the
able
most.
to pause and just dissect it.
being
a
able to
little
have
more.
brightness that's worth a darn
Yes.
would be nice. Good God. What about you, Petrie?
I know at least for sure one. There'd probably be 2
Yeah. Yeah.
more at least.
Toby, you have a love affair with this. You want to make love to this movie.
I want to make love to this movie.
How many more times do you
behind
see it?
McDonald's parking lot?
How many
That's what
total?
I would do.
In the back of a VW Beetle.
He's leaving after this to go see it.
I'm gonna.
Again.
I promise you right now. I'm counting my one hand so far. At least 5.
The
more
other
times.
hand's busy.
5 more times. for a
I'm
total
not.
of
I'm not
6, at
kidding you.
least.
At
The
least
other
6.
hand
There's
is
my man.
Yeah.
the
I'm
other
not
hand
kidding
is
you.
a little busy right
because
now.
I already can tell you right now. There are already like
Me and you got to
3
go see it at
people
least one of these times.
wanting to see it again. With I haven't even seen it with, and
Yeah.
there's another person I got to see it with that I just saw it with.
Yeah.
That's like 4 times. Then I already know there's a bonus time in there when I'm sitting around bored.
I saw it with
at least 5 more
I
times.
saw it with all my Star Wars nerds in one day, except for Garrick.
Loser.
You know, well, not all of them, but all of the available ones. I would normally go see this with my parents again because
Yep.
my parents are the ones that fostered my Star Wars fandom. Although, of course, it pales in comparison to how far I took it. But they just they're vacationing. So now I'm like, crap. I need an excuse to see it again. Oh, because I want to see it at least 1 more time. I saw Force Awakens twice. I definitely want to see this again. So maybe over Christmas, I can convince another family member that they need to go see it with me. So we'll see what happens.
This is your one time to see this movie in this format.
Yeah,
because you're not going to get it again.
Well, if history taught us any lessons, that's not accurate.
Maybe we'll get bored of New Year's.
Yeah. Maybe we could. Maybe we can get. That'll be our little getaway from the noise at New Year's.
15 years.
That's
we'll have the special edition release.
Yeah. Garrick, we could go see it together.
Yeah. How many times can I see it before Toby makes love to it? Because that's how many times.
Before it's used. Before it's used and abused.
You're gonna have like sloppy sevens.
No, I don't want that.
Yeah, you're gonna have it. You're gonna have it. And you're gonna enjoy it. Is what I'm saying. All right, now let's do it. Final thoughts. Anybody can chime in. Anything else that you want to say about the Force Awakens?
No,
or about Rogue One.
Something I've been kind of.
Rey
wondering,
was a Mary Sue.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Does this in any way diminish what Luke has done? Because I almost feel like it does.
I feel like it puts it in perspective. I feel like, okay, yeah, here are these people that you've been cheering on, but now understand is a lot more than many Bothans who died to bring you, information for something. Like look at all the people that have to do what they do to support. You get tastes of that in the movies, in the main movies, but this movie was all about exactly that.
There were no whiners in this movie.
No,
and there's usually been one in all the others.
Yep.
Bodhi was close.
He was the closest, yeah.
Yeah.
He had that thing sucking his brain.
Yeah, like I'm giving him a pass because he was really nervous because he thought he was going to get executed, and then after that he had his brain scrambled. So I'm gonna give him a pass. But I don't know. Mike, you're sitting there thinking real hard, chewing on your bottom lip.
One of the things that we haven't touched on that really affected me about the movie, and it always does, is the parental relationship. I think that brought a lot of depth to the movie. That Jin as a child is ripped away from her family.
This is my dying message to my daughter that I don't even know if is alive.
Right. And
that dude with the daughter thing hit me. I'm just like,
I know. That's me too. Right.
Well, when he left her at the beginning too.
Yeah.
Well, when he left her at the beginning,
here's the plan.
But seeing their, his dying moment and her, and I, that was her turning point. That hey, because prior to that she was just a criminal, always getting picked up and blah blah blah, and that was her turning point into something that was bigger than her. So I don't know, that had some deep impact to me in the film.
Right.
Well, my final thought is before I saw episode 7, The Force Awakens, I knew what was going to happen. And I think I made this comment afterwards. I said, I knew it was going to happen the whole time, but it still worked.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what was going to happen this entire movie.
Oh, yeah. Rogue One, you knew how it was going to turn out.
But the entire time, I was nervous that it wasn't going to end the way that I knew it was going to end.
Somehow they're not going to get the Death Star planes.
Seriously.
How was that even a problem for me? But
so
it was.
To be able to pull that off in the writing, and I was even questioning myself while watching it. Josh, why in the world are you so nervous right now? Like, why are you nervous that she's not
squeezing Corey's hand
she's
as
not
hard
going
as
to
you
climb
are?
up this thing and that she's not going to get it and they're not going to, like, the whole time was like, oh, come on, please be able to do this. I knew that was going to happen. But the
writing was amazing.
The writing.
Gary Whitta, man.
The character
Gary
development.
Whitta pulled it off.
I care about these characters more than any character in The Force Awakens, and that includes Rey.
Yeah.
And I think I will come to appreciate Rey more as I learn more about her.
Of course.
But they were not able to pull off the amount of character development in The Force Awakens that they were able to do in this short film.
With this many characters.
I cared about every one of those guys on some level. More so. I mean, probably, I cared about Bodhi, I think, more than I care about Finn.
I was going to be honest with you. I care about any of them. I cared about any of them more than I care about Poe Dameron.
Amen. Amen, brother.
And just pick one.
Right.
Krennic. I care about Krennic more than Poe Dameron.
The 10 other guys that they brought with them, I cared about them.
But what that's not a joke in any way.
And I think that the Force Awakens characters are all cool.
Yeah,
I think that they did really cool stuff with them in the movie. Certain scenes I can think of right now where I'm like, oh, that was so badass.
Yeah.
But I didn't care about them the way that I immediately cared about these characters.
Yeah.
Force Awakens writers
these characters,
doing Han Solo,
they're all
just telling
anti-heroes. All of them. And that, except maybe for a few exceptions. Maybe Chirrut was not necessarily an anti-hero, but they were all not nice people. They were all
rejects.
sticks out. He was a freaking assassin. They told him to go places, and if it didn't work out, you kill them.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. He was a spy / assassin.
This is something we've never seen outside the EU, and maybe even not then. Something to the rebels sending out someone to like a hit squad to go kill some people,
making it real.
Yeah.
And even then, Saul Guerrero's team worse than them.
Yeah, right.
Worse than them.
Extreme.
Yeah.
So, oh man, that's the thing. If you love Rogue One the way we love Rogue One, make your voice heard. Make everybody at Disney and Lucasfilm. I don't care if you guys send letters to Kathleen Kennedy herself.
Vote with your dollars.
The queen of the land. And yeah, go see the movie a bunch of times and tell them how much what you like about this movie. Because guess what? It could be that our main series Star Wars movies don't ever get this kind of depth. We don't need the darkness. We don't need as much violence, but the depth and the writing.
Yeah.
Hot dog, tell them what you love about it. That's the important thing here. If you find something in Star Wars or anything that you love, make it known. Don't just complain about the bad stuff, because then you're just going to start a podcast somewhere. But tell them about the things you love, because getting that message out means all the more getting that stuff to enjoy. And that's what it's all about, right, gentlemen?
That's right.
Yeah, it'll make it's going to make Rogue 2 that much better. It's going to be about many Bothans, and they're going to die.
No, Rogue 2 is going to be about finding Han and Luke out on the ice and then going and fighting the AT-ATs.
It doesn't sound exciting at all.
Yeah. Echo Base?
Yeah,
this is Rogue 2. And in the meantime, won't you please follow us on Twitter at FlyCasual1138, and of course follow Mr. Sancho Panda VTW at that on Twitter as well, and make sure you tell him what a great job he's done whipping the Glee Club into anything that's even remotely valuable whatsoever, because we certainly appreciate it, and our ears appreciate it even more. Won't you also go to Facebook, facebook.com/FlyCasualPodcast, and follow us there. And of course, Mr.
Steve Potter, foreign correspondent in the UK.
Still a big influence on what we do.
Back in business, by the way.
That's right. And he is loud and proud on Twitter, and you got to follow him there. We want to say also special Merry Christmas out, Steve Potter. We love you, man. You have no idea how much of a value you are to us, because there are no people on this planet any worse at telling people how much they're appreciated than us.
I really want to hear what that guy thought.
I do too. Maybe we were going to have to, just like last time, do another one and have him on. So I'll tell you what, though, everybody, this has been great. Run out, give us a nice little review on iTunes or Stitcher, wherever you get the podcast, but go see Rogue One a bunch more times. Am I right, gentlemen?
Oh, yes.
And they're already estimating as high as 160 million
opening weekend.
Wow.
That's pretty not bad.
There are some overseas numbers tonight in
domestically.
Domestic numbers are not in. Worldwide numbers right now at less than 24 hours already at 33 million.
Holy cow. You know what? Everybody said it's not going to do Force Awakens number, and maybe it doesn't, but it's going to be huge.
That's a win for all of us.
It absolutely is, everybody. So keep the win going. In the meantime, I'm Corey. Over there's Mike.
Do you think Felicity's single?
I don't think you can probably Google that. You can probably Google that. She's a good-looking wolf. She's a pretty lady, talented.
Man.
Yep. I want to see more movies with her. Over there's Josh.
Felicity and I and the Force could maybe be one.
Gross. Come on.
You did such a good job.
If you
become one with the Force, that means you're going to take each other out, right?
I'm pretty sure Josh just put his words through a Yoda translator. I'm not sure. Back there's Howie, Master Control.
Sales of the Black Series Rogue One figures are going to go up.
Yeah, they are. I feel really dumb for not getting a couple before.
Yeah, stupid.
But I'm trying to wean myself off of them. Over there's Petrie.
That Star Destroyer is disabled.
That's right. Ion torpedoes. What?
Yes.
Awesome. Over there is Mr. Toby.
I jokingly said that I was going to throw away my Star Wars poster, Rogue One, when I got home, and now I'm keeping it and framing it.
Yes, bro. Of course, over there somewhere is
Rogue
Garrick.
One. Am I right?
Rogue One, indeed. My friends, I have got to go because this movie has reduced me to jelly.
We hope you enjoyed this special edition of Fly Casual. If you haven't already, please subscribe and rate us at iTunes, Stitcher, and all your favorite podcast locations. It is important that you rate us so that we can reach more and more people. As always, be sure to check out the show notes at betterkind.com. There are also many, many ways to join in on the conversation. Follow us on Twitter at FlyCasual1138. Like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/FlyCasualPodcast. We are also now on YouTube, so please take a moment right now to subscribe and ding the bell for updates. We are also now on Discord as well. Lots of opportunities to chime in. Reach out and say hi. Talk to you soon.